two niggas spoiling movies. Yeah. Brandon Collins, that's me, and Justin Brown for your movie needs. Medium popcorn. Woo! You haven't seen it, well, we're gonna spoil it. Spoil it in your face. That's your warning. So if you get pissed, it's all your fault. Woo-hoo. Woo-hoo. Merry Christmas, little biscuits and sun-dried tomatoes. It's your boy, Eddie Collins.
Guys, this is Justin Brown, a.k.a. I don't know.
Toddy, dude, the AKA Toddy got so bad at me because, folks, if you haven't seen our fan appreciation video, please either go to our social medias at Medium P Podcast or youtube.com/Medium P Podcast. You can watch the full almost 2-minute video. But at the end of it, I say Eddie Collins, aka Brandon Collins. Just like, you can't AKA your actual name, you fucking psychopath.
Yeah,
but I did. So, what you gonna do?
Oh boy.
But folks, we're wrapping up the holiday season by reviewing the 1974 quote unquote classic
slasher horror
film. Black Christmas. And here's the thing, I had never seen this movie. I thought I saw it before.
I don't know. I never saw this movie either.
For some reason, I thought I had seen this before. I saw some other weird shit, I guess. Maybe probably for this podcast, because we'd be watching, we watch horror movies every month. So it all starts to blur at a certain point with the craziness, especially the 70s, 80s. All these movies are fucking cuckoo bananas.
Yeah. 70s is wild.
But then I realized, I was like, oh, this is that movie when we quote unquote get to the twist, which is that the killer's been inside the house the whole time making these phone calls.
Yeah. I realized that pretty quickly. I'm just like, oh, this is where that old, story, I get urban legend comes from.
Yeah, but
I thought they use that urban legends for this film.
Yeah, but for some reason, I thought that was the movie When a Stranger Calls or something like that. That has the twist that the killer's actually in the house, but I guess it was this. But at the same time, I was like, well, how does this nigga have more technology to distort their voice and shit than the killer from Scream? Like, it's 1974. How is he doing all these different voices?
This is true. Well, he also had screams in there. So basically, he was killing people and putting them on the phone and letting you hear it. Like, or I don't know.
But they were also implying that maybe it was like the prankster still. Like, we never got clarification of which actual calls were from the dude, except maybe like
No, they were all from him.
So that's crazy.
Unless he had a voice recorder and he was recording stuff and then playing it off a voice recorder.
But even then, like, it's got to play out loud.
Assaulting somebody in the moment.
But even like to your point, Justin, if the killer's playing a voice recorder into the phone, here's the thing that drove me crazy about this fucking movie. It takes place predominantly in a sorority house.
Yeah.
Unless these walls are paper, unless they are so fucking thick, like cement walls, there's no reason why someone didn't hear this nigga making phone calls, this nigga playing voices on the phone, this nigga making voices on the phone, and also just walking around the house. At the end of the movie, Justin, we have dead bodies in this fucking house. They haven't been cleared out, and no one goes upstairs. The nigga is still alive, just hanging out.
Yeah.
Like he's the fucking Phantom of the Opera. I was like, why? What is more
like Quasimodo, because this motherfucker's up in the fucking attic.
He's above ground. Yeah. Phantom's downstairs.
Him downstairs.
What? Imagine they were roommates. They never see
Phantom and Quasimodo.
They would never see each other.
Strangers in the night.
Oh my god, they would sing together.
Yeah, they would. Of course, that's
god. I was fucked up. My mom used to be almost too blunt with me. Like she would like protect me, like raising me in the suburbs and shit. But then she randomly tell me some real shit. Like I remember we saw the animated Hunchback of Notre Dame, the Disney movie and shit. Hot as Esmeralda. I think Demi Moore did the voice. Jesus Christ. After that movie, I was like, wow, that's like a really crazy story. My mom was like, yeah, and the real one, Quasimodo dies. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, like he falls off the roof, killing the priest dude or whatever. And then I saw an adaptation of it, and that's literally how it ends. And I was like,
wait, he falls off the roof and
Like he pushes the the main bad dude from the church.
Mhm.
He pushes them. They both like essentially die, falling off the roof of the
Uh-huh.
tower.
Yeah, okay.
And then
All for the love of a white woman.
well,
Oh well, I guess
can we
Esmeralda.
call them? That's the thing. There's so much PC shit. Can we call them gypsies anymore? What's happening?
No, I mean,
What
well,
about at that time though? They were called gypsies.
yeah. I mean, it's not necessarily politically correct now,
Well, what are they
but
called now?
at the same time, if you're looking at it through the lens of Disney and Disney at that time when that movie came out,
Yeah.
white woman.
Well, she was dark skinned, but she was voiced by a white woman. But I remember, man, and that horny dude, the friar dude, had a song about how he wanted to fuck her. Tati pointed that out to me. She's like, "Yeah, that song about the fire, that's about him wanting to fuck her." I'm like,
Hmm.
"What?"
There was another one where somebody had a song. It was essentially it's just like I'm gonna get that ass. And
The
I
bare
just
necessities. Baloo's like, "I'm gonna fuck you, kid."
I'm gonna eat you from the butt.
Jesus Christ. Lion King was another one. I was like, man, I love the Lion King. My mom's like, yeah, it's like an adaptation of Hamlet. I was like, what's Hamlet? And then I read about what Hamlet was, and that was fucking
Yeah,
crazy.
and then, well, actually, Lion King gets really dark when you realize that Scar fucked his mama and everybody else, and
Well, that's why
also
it's Hamlet.
Nala as well.
Yeah, but that's probably why it's Hamlet, because that's
Yeah.
essentially the brother, gets with the mom and shit. But
Hmm.
anyways, Black Christmas.
Yep.
Black Christmas.
Hey
Okay,
guys,
so
guess what? Ain't not one nigga in
oh,
this.
there ain't
Mm.
no dark people in this movie.
Yep.
And for me, what frustrated me about it was that there was some actual, like, for being made in like the early 90s, 1970s. One, I thought it had a very distinctive vibe. Like it's shot very well.
Yeah.
And it has a very specific vibe that you can tell was pulled from, like, pulled by other horror films, particularly like
Hmm.
Halloween and like Friday the 13th and other like classic horror films. So I was like, okay, I can kind of fuck with this. But then, sweet Lord, the end of the first act through the middle act into the third act are so fucking boring and
Bro.
nonsensical and weird. And I'm just like, why are they adding more white people to the screen that bring nothing? Like they have
And
no screen presence.
half of them all look alike. So you don't know who
All
the
the men, all the men looked alike. I had no idea who was who, except for maybe the
John
main
Saxon.
detective.
Wait, was it John Saxon? No. No, well, it wasn't John
Yeah, it
Saxon.
was John Saxon.
Yeah, John Saxon, and then there was a dude with long hair who kind of looked like John Saxon but older, who was
Yeah.
supposed to be a college kid. That kid was ugly. I'm
Are you
sorry.
talking about the boyfriend,
Yeah.
Peter?
Whew.
Yeah, that nigga look. Originally, according to UBS research, who was supposed to play that? I think it was a famous actor, Malcolm McDowell was originally offered the role of Peter, but he had to turn it down, which is a decision he says that he regrets to this day when he saw the
Yeah.
massive success of this film and the classic horror film status.
Listen, after seeing that guy on film, they might as well just offered it to Willem Dafoe now. Because that dude was ghoulish. He was a
Yeah,
very
but you can't,
unattractive man.
don't do that to Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe is one of the best actors,
No, I said
the
Willem
best.
Dafoe now.
I know, but
Physically,
like,
Willem Dafoe
I
now.
know, but like that's the even the grain to Willem Dafoe. This actor was god awful.
Oh, well, yes. Yeah. Well, we're not talking about acting. We're talking about just what he looks
Oh,
like.
for the
The
looks.
guy
Yeah,
looked
okay.
like he was 72 years
Oh
old.
yeah, he was. I mean, everyone looked crazy except Margot Kidder,
Mm-hmm. A la Lois Lane.
Lois Lane, but she looked hot. Like I remember having a little crush on her as Lois Lane in Superman.
Mm.
She looked fucking, and she looked hot in this movie, dude.
Yeah, yeah. Like at the beginning of the movie, she had the little choker on. I was like,
Yep,
okay,
yep. I was
I see
like,
you. I
that's what.
see you.
Honestly, that's what got me into this movie
Yep, it hit her off with that super.
because she actually has a certain level of like charisma and energy. Like I was flabbergasted by how lazy the acting felt at times
Oh yeah.
and how
But
awkward it was. I
at
was
the
just like,
same time, Brandon, I feel like part of that is just the 70s. I felt like
mm,
in the 70s, acting not across the board, but a lot of it was very lazy and it was very subdued, but subdued to the point where it's just like, you guys ain't doing anything.
yeah,
There's it's like, why am I watching this? But this movie was incredibly boring. Incredibly boring.
very boring.
Now,
It's
also, if we're gonna talk about weird looks in actors and actresses in this film. The girl with the curly hair and glasses, You cannot tell me, Brandon, on this podcast today that that's not Meg from Family Guy as a real life person. She straight up looked like Meg.
It might have been. It might have been inspired by that. Yes,
She looked
that's
nuts.
hilarious. That's funny. Yeah, I will say also the actress that played Jessie when she had the little yellow thing on, like the
Mhm.
shirt, I was like, you look pretty good in that. She's terrible in
Yeah,
this role.
horrendous.
I mean, when she has the what is it? She sees all the mutilated bodies in the attic, and then her delayed reaction was alarming.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, is she supposed to be like slow to figure out what's happening, or is that I had no idea what was going on.
Then, like the madam of the house. Well, not the madam. That makes it sound like it's a whorehouse.
Yeah,
Um.
like the house dean or
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
the house
I
mother. That's what they
forgot
call
what
her.
they call it. Um.
Mrs. McHenry, who was fucking horny as hell for Mr. Harris.
And she was just wild.
I
She
mean,
was fucking wild. She had
all the adults were fucking nuts.
a bottle of straight sherry hidden in a book. She had a bottle of straight sherry hidden in the back of the toilet and tied to a string. And she took that shit, didn't even wipe it off. Put it right to her fucking lips. I was just like, ugh, ugh,
Yep,
gross.
nasty. It's just nasty, man. I this movie, it felt like it could have been a lot gorier. I kind of like appreciate that it restrained itself because it could have got a messy gory like a Friday the 13th kind of movie.
Mm.
Um, but at the same, it just for me, it just didn't make any sense. And it's funny because we'll go into our producer Uvia's trivia later on. But I wrote down at the beginning, I'm like, oh, like when you see the first person of the killer like climbing up the house and stuff,
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, is this gonna be some Ted Bundy shit?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you find out this actually came out before the Ted Bundy shit.
So
But
maybe this inspired him.
we'll talk about in the trivia. It's kind of fucking crazy. But between that, okay, I was like, I get it. It's the 70s. There's no security system. There's no caller ID and shit. But these white girls have no sense of urgency or sense of danger at all. I mean, to be fair, like they're just dealing with this whoever this nigga's calling saying, let me lick it, you pretty big cunt. And everyone, I hate saying that word, but that's what's said in this movie. And I need to repeat it verbatim because it's fucking nuts. Because they're just like, hee, hee, hee. And then
They're
he's just
all
like,
standing around, just like, oh, oh,
listen to the
oh,
call, egging
oh.
him on. And then out of nowhere, he's just like, I'm going to kill you. And then he hangs up. And you're just like,
They're
I think
just
just like,
like, they're like, guys, I think we escalated that. I think we escalated.
well, I did write down. See, Barb is provoking him because Barb, Margaret Kidder's character, is
Hmm.
provoking the dude. I was like, that's what Justin does. And one day, Justin gonna get medium popcorn and some shit because
What are you talking about?
you keep responding to these crazy niggas that email us and shit to the point where I had to hide those from you. I had to put a special filter on the email so you don't respond to any of this shit. And folks, yes, we still occasionally get these random kind of death threats and angry emails, mostly from Justin's Paddington 2 review, but there's been someone who's been pretty disturbing, consistent the past like year.
Wow.
So.
You know, I guess whatever filters you put on have been good because I have not seen any of it.
Exactly. Yep. I've been seeing them.
I'm gonna have to dig down into our email and
No,
find.
you can't find them. You can't find. But I will say this: fuck Google, because I've been trying to flag these threats for a long time and got
Mm.
no response. And it's
Oh.
not like serious enough where I feel like I need to go to the cops. You know what I mean?
Mm.
But like they have literally no response. Like there's no customer service. Like I've emailed security accounts and stuff, nothing. Because you would
Huh.
have seen them. You
Man,
share the email. It's
man.
fucking atrocious.
So you
Um,
just on top of it, huh?
well, because I mean, I don't want to read out loud what the nigga's saying because I don't want to bring it to reality, but it's not great.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Like we're just trying to make people laugh. Like I'm not trying.
You talk about filleting balls. Come on now.
Like, come on, man. Like,
Yeah, this. Stop. Now you want to get nuts. Come on. Let's get nuts.
Okay.
I didn't know that the soundbite was that long. I thought I edited it down. But,
Okay. All right. All right.
all right. Yeah, there's nonstop white people in this. I mean, it's the 70s and it's in the suburbs or wherever the fuck this takes place.
Well,
But
because if it's a college town, it's well, I mean, where is this supposed to be?
I wasn't sure, man. Yeah, the Wikipedia it doesn't really give you a location, but they did film it in where did they film this? They filmed this in University of Toronto. So they filmed this in Canada.
Well, yeah. So here's the thing. This is inspired by the urban legend, The Babysitter and the Man Upstairs, a series of murders that took place in the Westmount neighborhood in Montreal, Quebec.
Mhm.
So so this doesn't predate those this doesn't predate the whole, he's in the house thing.
Yeah. I mean, but it's I mean, I guess maybe this movie is supposed to talk about like, similar to what happened was in the 80s when all the kids were getting kidnapped, snatched up in vans and shit. How like people just got very complacent and not very concerned about the threat of danger.
Well, I guess the 70s and 80s, yeah.
Yeah. So
Late
because
70s.
the cops are so lackadaisical, and then also like even the parents, like I said, the adults are fucking weird. Like Mr. Harris, who's looking for his daughter, he's weird as fuck.
Almost to the point we just like, did this nigga do it?
Yeah, I'm like, and that was what was frustrating. Is like we never get clarity on who actually the killer is.
Yeah.
It's clearly not Peter, even though Jess beats the fuck out of him, or that's what it alludes to.
Oh yeah,
Um,
she took that fire poker to him.
yeah, but it's just very frustrating because again, okay, the killer's still alive. He's upstairs. There's a cop outside the house.
Yeah.
Go upstairs. He killed a cop.
Yeah.
Who was like standing out watch. He like slit his throat. Like
Mhm.
the whole town should be on fucking lockdown now.
Well, first of all, it's the fact is like, I mean, obviously we're skipping around this episode, but
It's
that
fine.
girl, after her entire ordeal, they leave her sleeping up in that house upstairs alone, and they just have a cops outside. It's just like, yeah, you want to go to sleep in your bed where your two friends were murdered next door, where you murdered your boyfriend in the fucking basement, where this person was likely murdered over here, and two other people are just completely missing. And on top of this all, nobody has really thoroughly checked the house. So
Nope.
you had all those cops inside the house, and not one of them decided to walk up to the damn attic and just say, hey, I wonder what's going on up here.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is the optimal time to check. And it's not like the ladder to the attic was adequately hidden off somewhere. All you had to do was turn left. It was right there. It was right there.
This movie could have been 20 minutes. It's like if anyone just had gone upstairs and be like, hey, there's a crazy nigga up here. But to be fair, it sounded like that guy had super strength because it sounded like he was a rabid dog, basically.
Yeah.
Between the way he was growling and barking. I mean, I did write down when he's chasing Jesse, he's chasing her through the house and she locks the door and he's banging and screaming and shit. That would traumatize me. That was fucking that's probably the scariest part of this movie.
Mm.
It's because it's like if someone's that crazy, and then also I know that they killed my friends and shit. Like, yeah, this is a problem.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're running for your life.
But the cops are supposed to be listening in. Didn't they tap the phone?
Well,
didn't the guy say, "Don't go upstairs"? The cop is talking to her like, "Hey, the calls are coming from the house. Don't go upstairs, Jesse. Jesse, hello."
She's
hello?
like, fire poker. I'm going upstairs. Like, hey, if you can hear me, I'm just like, oh no,
dude. There were so many moments where I get how this is considered maybe from a cinematic standpoint, a horror classic. There was definitely some cool shots and some cool inventive ways that they illustrated the killer's POV, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the character moments, and I guess maybe this is a point of the time. Call in, folks. If you were around in 1974, please call and let us know. Was it this easy to just get away with shit and kill people? Because this is crazy. 347-508-0978. I need to know because you got between this killer just killing people throughout the house and hiding their bodies in the fucking attic. No one's even thinking to go upstairs.
Yep.
Then you got one girl who said, she said, "You can't rape a townie," which was one of the craziest lines I've ever heard in my life.
That was wild. That was wild.
You got You got
And
carolers.
she turned out to be a reporter.
Yeah. You got carolers, the creepiest bunch of little white kids I've ever seen in my life, singing outside the house in a haunting, like Charlie Brown-esque vibe. And I'm just like, what are we doing here? There's a woman, literally Lois Lane is getting stabbed upstairs with a glass pick, and everyone's just like, oh, Saint Lie. Like, what are we doing?
Holy night. He's like, oh God, all is calm. Oh no, it's not. I'm dying up here. All is bright. I can see the light. I'm going into it. Yeah, that scene was nuts.
If I were that character, if I were Barb and I got murdered like that, I would haunt every one of those little nigglers.
Well, you know what, Brandon?
I'd be like, you like singing?
Right now. Be now I'm out in the suburbs and I'm
Stay woke.
All I'm gonna say is this: if I see some carolers knock on my door, I may have to pull a Roscoe out on them. You know what I'm saying?
I don't even know what that means.
Roscoe's a gun, baby.
Oh God.
Yeah, because I am not for people rolling up.
Justin's gonna end up with New York 1.
I am not comfortable with opening my door and just seeing a group of white people standing there singing. Listen, back in the day when that happened, there was a burning cross on the lawn that was with white people standing outside on your lawn singing something. But so it wasn't a positive thing. I don't know how I feel about that. But Lluvia in the chat, she said Ted Bundy killed people around that time, around the time of this release. So technically, this is kind of the way the 70s rocked.
Maybe, yeah, because he just walked into a sorority house and bashed a bunch of women's skulls in, right?
Yeah, because he went from room to room.
Yeah.
He went to room. He was Krampus. He's just like, you get some coal. You get some coal.
Jesus Christ.
As he was taking souls more than taking, coal.
Yep. Jesus Lord.
Yeah, no, that's incredibly dark. But I mean, what Ted Bundy was doing was incredibly dark.
Yeah, and also we saw the stabbing of Margot Kidder in like the first person. That shit was kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
Also, when he hooked the old woman, I was like, oh, that's I know what you did last summer. Did something similar, so that's why I kind of like laughed during that scene. But also, again, these bodies have been up here. With the first victim, the first night, her body's up there for at least 48 hours, maybe a little bit less. It's to still be stinking.
Listen, man, he wrapped it in plastic. It means it's airtight.
I believe UVS trivia. Hold on one second. I gotta pull this up because I was like, I could tell. Yeah, actress Lynn Griffin revealed for the scenes where she's wrapped in plastic, she would rip a hole in the bag, stuffing the opening into her open mouth and poke nose holes in the bag with a pencil so she could breathe during filming. Being a swimmer also helped with her holding her breath in the bag. I was like, yeah, I wrote down. I'm like, she's an actress in this bag. Like, it's not like a dummy at this point. Yeah. She's still an actress with her head wrapped up, making that face. I was like, imagine you're done with your dialogue scenes. And now for the rest of the shoot, the film shoot, you're just wrapped in plastic.
No, actually what they probably did was because I mean, this was made with a $686,000 budget. It was made in Canada. I wonder how many days this was filmed over. Do we have that? Because so the way I look at
it was shot from March 25th to May 11th. So a little under 2 months.
Okay. So they probably filmed on location.
Oh yeah.
She stayed up there the entire time just in case they needed pickup shots or yada, yada, yada. So she was just there that entire time. And then the scenes where they needed her, they just bring her out there, but they just paid her for her entire time up there. Cause that's what I did with the fucking film that I did.
Got it.
The films that I did in like Maine and shit.
Makes sense.
Especially when you're doing on a low budget, well, this wouldn't technically be that low budget today. But back then that's essentially,
I mean, they've tried to remake this a few times, but you could definitely do this film or something similar for a relatively low budget. I'm talking like 10 to 15 mil, maybe.
Yeah.
maybe a little bit more, depending on like if you want to
You
get
can
big
do that less.
stars. Well, it depends. If you want to get big stars to play the sorority sisters, I can see that being worth like, like I can see like a Jenna Ortega being like the main girl if
Yeah.
you did a remake now. You know what I mean? But you'd have to pay top dollar for that to happen. But then you're gonna get your return because she's such a big star now. Which
Mhm.
is the rumor apparently with Scream 7 is that she already had been off of the project because they didn't want to pay her the money that they want to pay her.
Fair.
Which means that Paramount ain't doing well because if you're not trying to, anyways, I don't want to go
Yeah,
down that rabbit hole.
if you ain't trying to cash in on that,
Yeah.
you ain't trying to
Um,
win. I
but
mean, but also at the same time, with everything and streaming and whatnot, it's like, yeah, of course you're not gonna.
I will say, I wrote down 30 minutes into this movie, and mind you, it's only an hour and a half, and I was bored to tears.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that's the thing is, it's like it's a slasher movie, but just at some point, it's just a lot of white people just talking to each other with
Yeah.
no sense of urgency.
And also that murder happens and we don't get another murder for like a good another 45 minutes almost.
It's a while. I think the housewife mother is the next
Yes.
kill after the opening kill, and it's a long break. And then it's just like then when people do get a fire under their ass, nothing really happens because the cops are like, "Well, what do you want me to do? And what's the passcode to your account?" And she's like, "Fellatio 2080," and he's just like, "Whoa, that's a tongue twister. What does that mean?"
How do you spell it? I fucking hate
Well,
it.
he didn't sound like that. He didn't sound like Goofy,
You
but
might as well.
just making him goofy and shit. That is weird.
Hey, Max, how do you spell fellatio? Your
No,
old dad has knocked one out in a while.
that really is an I Am Sam situation. That whole story.
Oh, what? Oh,
A Goofy movie.
yeah, yeah. It's kind of crazy.
It's not good. It's not good. Lluvia, we should add an extremely goofy movie to the list.
Oh
I think
God.
it's time. It's not nowhere near as good as the first one, but I think it's time for us to do that. Yes, Lluvia, it is the second one. Yeah. It'd be wild if it was the prequel.
Yeah, yeah.
It'd be like how Goofy met the mom and shit and why she left. She's like, nigga, you try to work at a photo booth? Like, you can't support me.
You got all these odd jobs. Hey, I'm fixing roofs today. And my good pal Mickey. I've never met your pal. Well, he's in my head.
Oh, didn't you? Because I remember like one time I was over at your house. I think I had to walk Jackson daycare or something,
Hmm.
and you left me like watch like the Mickey and his friends or some
Mickey
shit.
Mouse Funhouse. Yeah.
Yeah, you were saying like they all have jobs and shit, but like one of them doesn't. Like what you said, like Goofy. You're like, oh yeah, Goofy like has like a job, but he be messing up and stuff. I was like, yeah, it's Goofy.
I no, that's not the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Then there's something else.
Oh, okay.
It's something else.
Yeah, but that shit was weird.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah,
was just your life, or I mean, it's still your life.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You just watching those crazy ass cartoons. You're just
Hey
like,
there, Mickey the Mouse. That's Pete.
why is he still there? He doesn't like any of them. Why is Pete still around?
Well, Pete is part of I mean, Pete is like, yeah, he's the bad guy, but in the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, he ain't he's just kind of a douchebag sometimes, but he helps him out. He's always playing like a guy who's trying to like, oh, you want to go here? You gotta pay a toll. He's trying to get some money. He's
Yeah.
always trying to get some money out of somebody. He's a businessman. About that business, man.
Um,
Anything that's not to talk about this movie.
I know because it's stupid. That's
Yeah.
the thing. Is like people could be like, oh, but it's like a really good, it builds suspense really well and stuff like that. I'm like, no, it doesn't. The
Yeah,
most
I don't think
suspenseful part of this movie, the most haunting part of this movie is the ending. When it zooms out, slow zoom out from the house. Again, I think the cinematography was great. It
Hmm.
zooms out from the house, and you hear the ringing of the phone, no other sounds, and that's it. And it cuts to black. And then like then you have the credits roll. I'm like, that's
Well,
creepy and haunting.
And then on top of that, you have a cop standing out front. He's like, he hears a ring on the phone. He's like, "Hey, what's that?" He's just looking around. He's like, "Go inside, and answer the phone, then, bro."
That's what's so like. That's what I hate about horror films, I get it. Like they're fantastical, they're crazy, especially slasher films. But I always appreciated the horror films that kind of gave you that were grounded in some kind of reality.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna have cops, okay, you can have bumbling cops, but you gotta show that they're like getting taken out, but it still escalates things. You don't just like kill cops and like nothing happens. When Mike Myers, when he murders all the police officers, guess what? The town tries to come after him. It's not like
Yeah.
people are just like, damn, he killed a bunch of cops. Like, I guess we're gonna just go on with our
Yeah.
lives.
The town says, "Hey guys, ante up," and all of a sudden they catch him. They catch him lacking around town.
Like when John Sachs sees that cop with his neck slit, he's just like, oh man, he had a rough Wednesday. Like, there's no reaction. I'm like, it's the 70s. Like they be fucking lighting up this town looking for this nigga.
Well, and then on top of, or they just, or they just find a nigga and then kill
Well,
him and blame him.
Well, they
for
just immediately assume it's Peter. They're like, "Oh, she killed him." Okay, cool, case closed. And there's no further investigation.
Well, I mean, Brandon, I mean that is police work at its finest in some places. So it's just like, oh, that guy's dead. Nah, well, it's most likely him.
Yeah.
And then the family files a civil suit against his family, and then that family goes broke, and he never even did nothing. And just basically destroyed that man's name and his family, whole family name.
Yeah, it's I just was really frustrated with it. I didn't care about the one storyline with the girl who's pregnant. Oh, well, that's the main girl, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And her boyfriend Peter. And what did he say? He was like, "I love you," and she's like, "I know." And I was like, "Oof."
Yeah. That's not what you want to hear.
Yeah, I was like, "This ain't no Han Solo, Princess Leia shit. That's some real like." I'm
Yeah.
friend zoning you after I get this abortion if I want to get it.
Yeah, he's like, you better not get no abortion. She's like, you can't tell me to do my body. I said, go ahead, girl. But like, but he gonna kill you for that.
Oh yeah, and also John Saxon's reaction to I listened to the call when he said kill the baby. What do you mean by that? I'm like, if there's a potential serial killer going around, and you hear that potentially he's killed babies. Granted, they're not related, but
Yep.
if you that's your immediate impression, nigga, ask that question faster.
Yeah.
With a little bit more oomph to get to the bottom of it.
Well, you know what? And I guess the other thing is like when they have a search party in the park and they're looking around for the first girl who died, they come across a body in there. So a young girl had been killed at the park, right? We don't learn about that until later on, where somebody like when the random carolers at the door, and the woman's just like, hey, you kids all go home. It's just like a young girl was killed at the park. It's like, okay, yeah, I heard about that. I'm just like, nigga, we didn't hear about it. We just finding out about this right now. Y'all didn't make that big of a deal about it. Like, it was just very weird about how all of this stuff played out.
I will say, 70s fashion, nothing like it. These outfits were crazy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like I was just like, oh, this is a time capsule.
Oh yeah,
right
nobody's
here.
wearing this anymore.
Yeah. I just pivoted because again, like everything else about this movie was so stupid. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's fair.
I just was like, okay. I really need to talk to someone who was around the 70s in like an area like this, I guess. Like, cause I just genuinely I can't imagine being this ignorant. But like we said, like this is around the time of Ted Bundy and other similar events and shit like that. And so maybe, I mean, to live in a world where you could be this naive and comfortable, I mean, we've come a long way from that, I guess.
You know, I guess also the question is like, when did obviously I imagine that serial killers have always been a thing. They just haven't been able to really nationalize it before. But I feel like the serial killer craze or like it started to really pique people's interest. People were started paying attention during the 70s, and then obviously later on going into the 80s and things like that. So I was like, I wonder like what changed that we started getting more people that were just out there killing people. Maybe part of it is is the fact is that you're getting media attention, and the people's like, oh, this is how I can make a name for myself by doing all this stuff. So now I feel heard and seen, and all that. But it's like it's a weird thing. The whole serial killer, like how it kind of just started. The numbers just went through the roof at a certain time.
Yeah. I mean,
Like, what was the thing that kind of kicked this off? Is it slasher movies like this?
maybe because if I saw something like this, I'm like, the nigga still got away with it. He's just in the house still.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yay,
kill.
you can outsmart the cops.
Yeah. I mean, every
Are you
serial
man
killer.
enough?
Are you man enough? Are you man enough to fight for niggas for me?
It's one of the best things I've ever heard in my life. You mean the chat said they never caught the Zodiac killer?
Yeah, they thought they did.
Mm-hmm. Didn't they just recently, like about 2 years ago, solve one of his puzzles? Like that's how complex that nigga was. Like they just recently figured out. Oh shit!
Oh
Well,
shit! It comes out. It just says that he's a Pisces.
so stupid. Oh god, alive. All right. Well, we did get some. Like I said, we got some trivia on this. So reportedly, the writer Roy Moore took inspiration for the story from an actual series of murders that took place in Montreal, Quebec. Around. So this is a Canada thing. That's what started this shit.
Mhm.
They had all their doors open and shit like that. But
Oh yeah.
this happened around the Christmas season, along with the urban legend, the bat babysitter, and the man upstairs, like you mentioned earlier. The legend about the babysitter who kept receiving disturbing phone calls. When she had the police trace the phone calls, they realized that a killer was calling from within the house in which she worked. The urban legend inspired at least 6 different films in the 1970s and several more in subsequent decades. According to the director, Bob Clark, the original script for the film featured more murder scenes that were way more graphic. However, he felt that it'd be more effective if the murders were toned down and kept subtle and screen.
No, they needed more murders because this was really slow.
It's so interesting because I remember reading trivia about Scream, and like that's the reason why Henry Winkler's character dies. Because one of the Weinstein brothers realized that there wasn't a murder for like 30 something pages. And they're like, yeah, we got to kill somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. Something has to happen.
Yeah. Especially if it's a slasher film. You got to kill niggas.
Mm-hmm.
The only time that really worked was like a movie like Psycho. Because you're watching the movie and you're kind of like, okay, was the murder of the chick, was that like a fluke? Was that like a one-off thing? Or is she like going to keep killing people? So you're kind of like waiting to find out.
Yeah.
And then when she kills the PI, you're like, oh, okay, this is some real shit.
Thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of Psycho, this movie is regarded as one of the first slasher films with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Bay of Blood, 1971, Psycho, 1960, and Peeping Tom, 1960, preceding this film. It set the layout for films such as John Carpenter's Halloween. However, director Bob Clark considered it to be more of a psychological horror film than a slasher film. There's nothing psychological about this except getting through it. That was the most horrific thing about this movie. And I'm sorry, folks.
Racking your brain. Yeah. Maybe you were just on some LSD in the 70s.
Well, that's what I'm trying to understand because you know me, I'm a fan of slasher films. I can like some of the cheesiest slasher films. Valentine. For some reason, I love that movie. It's terrible, but I can dig it, right? Urban Legend, same thing. This, I just was like, this again, I can appreciate it on a cinematic level, cinematography. I thought Margot Kidder fucking looked smoking, but like there's just nothing that kept me engaged for the hour and a half length. And it shouldn't have felt like it was a 3-hour fucking movie.
Yeah.
It felt so dude, Tatiana like passed by me several times watching this movie. She's like, why you look so bored? I'm like, because this is so fucking boring. Like the killings, and maybe that's the problem with the killings being so subtle. Yeah. Like maybe if they like were more gory, like it may have been like less tasteful, but it would have woke me up.
We didn't see anything. So like,
yeah, I mean, you saw some blood dripping occasionally. And
no, that was only one thing.
Yeah.
Nobody else. That's the only murder where you actually saw something actually happening. All the other murders actually happened off camera.
Yeah. Or like, yeah, they were very quick cuts.
No. They all happened off camera. And then you just saw a body somewhere later on.
Even when he wrapped an old girl in the plastic bag?
Yes.
Wow. Thought you saw like him wrapping her head and shit.
No, you got nothing.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, you just saw the next day she's just sitting there in a rocking chair all wrapped up.
A strict rule that Clark had set for himself when writing the female characters was to never objectify them sexually or give them nude scenes. He wanted the college girls to come off as real people and not disposable horror characters waiting to die, which I can appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I would have loved to see Margot Kidder naked in this, but
Even though at the same time they were portrayed as fucking sex crazed horn dogs
and not very smart.
Yeah. Like you look at, oh, this girl's got a wall, the poster on the wall of some, some girl laying on top of a guy with an asshole out. Yeah. So it's like and then, the Barbara girls talk about, fellatio is a phone number.
Yep.
It's like, yeah. So like, it really didn't like, yeah, you didn't want to paint them as sexual objects, but they're just kind of sex crazed and horny. And our lead actress is like, yeah, I got pregnant. I'm pregnant because you was shooting that fucking man yogurt in me. Like, what's going on here?
Dude, I imagine the 70s, man, they must have had some rough condoms. I'm just saying, they did. That lube was like very limited and shit. It probably like rubbing sandpaper on your dick. That's probably why everyone was raw dogging. That's why there's so many kids between the 60s and 70s. And that cocaine. You had that cocaine, baby.
And syphilis was on the rise.
God. Star Margot Kidder admitted in an interview that she never thought the film would become a hit and was surprised to learn that it gained such a cult following over the years. And due to the film's low budget, some of the actors were encouraged to provide some of their own clothes for the film production. You don't say. I could tell. That nigga woke up like this. Another crazy piece of trivia that Lluvia found was the original script was over 166 pages long before Bob Clark came in to do some rewrites. Then an altered script, a film could have easily produced a near 3-hour film. This script was used for the basis of a long out print novelization written by Lee Hayes. Interesting.
So it's funny because like I'm looking at this and Kidder, she took on the role of Lois Lane in 1978. So I think that's super interesting. The fact is that you never know where you're going to be. And it's just like, I wonder if she took this film, which looking at her acting, what she did with this film, I don't think she really took it that seriously. And especially her saying like, I didn't think this thing was going to be a hit.
Yeah.
She just didn't take that seriously. And then next thing you know, 4 years later, she's playing Lois Lane in a huge movie, which is considered basically is one of the, the first like superhero movies and one of like the, the biggest characters that's been around in that time for the last 50 years.
Yeah. Hey man, I mean, horror films are a really good way for people to break out.
Yeah.
Right. Like I think horror or like revitalized her career. Right. Like I talked about Scream, Nev Campbell breakout role. She didn't really take off the way I think that she wanted to in film, but still Drew Barrymore, that put her back on the map, that opening scene. Yep. Jennifer Love Hewitt, I Know What You Did Last Summer. Even most recently as X and Pearl with Mia Goth. That put her on the map. Like, you know what I mean? Like horror movies are really good for doing that. It's just that you gotta hope that there's other things that like you can get into outside of that, especially the franchise isn't a hit. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or like has no longevity, because a lot of horror films are one-offs. They're not made to be cinematic sequels or series, or if they are, you're probably gonna die in the sequel. Yeah, that's usually how this works with survivors, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, good for her. Good for her. I didn't hear of any of the other actors really. So at least she got out unscathed. But again, this is a big hit. Well, yeah, John Saxon, but he was already an established actor by this point.
Yeah.
Everything.
You know what? I didn't realize that the main actor, Olivia Hussey, she was Argentinian. Ooh. Born in Buenos Aires.
That makes sense. Yeah, she looked very exotic, but also very white. So I think it was probably the makeup and the way they lit her. But yeah, I remember being like, she in that yellow. I was like, that's popping. Who's popping?
It's popping. It's popping.
Who did that song? Little Mama?
I think so. Yeah, my lip gloss. Yeah, yeah.
My
Listen.
lip gloss is popping. Man, I remember Little Mama fucking walked on stage with Jay-Z. And he was like, what the fuck are you doing up here?
Yeah, and then he poses, and she's just there with him. I was like, "Yo, get out of here!"
Remember a period when niggas just could get on stage?
I mean, but it's not like they were just random people.
Yes, yes. I mean, I wonder what security is like these days at like award shows to prevent moments like the
Kanye.
Lil Mama or the Kanye Taylor Swift. Man, I still remember that night. I watched that shit live. I think I wasn't in college, but I remember watching that live and being like and looking up to the TV and I was like, wait, why is Ye on screen? And then he said what he said. He's like, Beyonce one of the best videos of all time, and then shrugged and dropped the mic. He didn't even hand the back to the Taylor. Oh no, he did hand the back to Taylor.
Brandon,
He did.
I think history has already answered your question because Will Smith literally walked on stage and slapped
Oh yeah, true.
Chris
True.
Rock. So
Yeah.
it's not
Well,
that great.
So what they're saying is don't give black people stages. Don't give us don't let us on stage.
No. Don't give black people liquor.
True.
During an award show.
Well, Will Smith, did he have some drinks? Had he had some drinks?
I don't know.
I mean, that's still not an excuse or anything like that.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, but it saved his marriage, so I guess it all worked out, right?
God, could she please stop doing interviews? Lord,
I want her to go away.
Please stop. Like, I just want to forget about y'all for a little bit, please.
Oh my gosh.
So crazy.
Actually, I think one of the funniest walking on stage is it was on SNL when Will Ferrell went on stage while I think Diddy was performing. And apparently Diddy was really pissed. And like they were ready to assault him over that.
Oh shit.
Yeah, you didn't hear about that?
No.
Oh yeah. He was performing and Will Smith and Will Ferrell comes on dancing or whatever, just being Will Ferrell. And they were just like, no, no.
One of my favorite random, like clearly unscripted moments was like I think the Golden Globes. Ricky Gervais, he's a little bitch, like hosting, but he would roast what I always liked about him is that he would roast the fuck out of people. I think he's a terrible comedian, but he would get some burns in, like that only a white man could do. And he did like this bit about Angelina Jolie and Johnny Depp being that like movie. We haven't done it for the podcast, but they were like some weird spy movie that was apparently really, really bad. And
I don't remember that.
He's like,
is it Angelina Jolie or Angelina and Brad Pitt and
Angelina Jolie and Johnny Depp?
Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah. And essentially, he was just like, they're both nominated. I can guarantee you, neither one of them have seen this movie. Like, neither one of them knows what happened. Blah blah blah. Like, and then Johnny Depp came on to present, and Ricky Gervais comes on stage. He's like, I gotta ask you for real. Have you seen that movie? Have you seen the movie? Johnny Depp's like, I'm not gonna like what? And then Ricky Gervais is like, just walks off stage.
Exactly.
He's just like, what's going on? Also, I think correct me, callers call in, correct me if I'm wrong. Pretty sure Ricky Gervais said some shit about Mel Gibson before he came on stage, like something about sugar tits from his racist arrest call that he did.
Oh, I don't know.
Remember Mel Gibson was getting, I think he was getting arrested or something like that. He called that police officer sugar tits.
Oh.
Yeah, Ricky Gervais had some hits.
Oh yeah, he was
during that show.
He just did not care.
That's why they stopped having him.
Yeah, they're just like, hey, because people didn't want to come anymore.
Well, yeah, I mean,
yeah, it was like, hey, if I'm gonna get flamed by Ricky Gervais, I ain't showing up.
Yeah, I get it. That's
amazing.
Yeah, because you don't expect to get roasted when you trying to like get sauced up and win an award.
Listen, put the fear of God in these folks.
Be like, nigga, I'm trying to get in a Spielberg movie. You can't be calling me a pedophile.
No, he wasn't a pedophile. He was a pedophile. A pedophile.
We did get a few Patriot thoughts, and folks, remember if you sign up at Patreon at patreon.com/mediumpopcorn, you were guaranteed to have your thoughts and reviews of that upcoming film read on the episode. First up is Chrissy W, who wrote, "This is one of my favorite Christmas horror movies, and I usually watch this every year. It's a quick and easy slasher movie, and Billy is crazy as hell and creepy. The 2019 remake to this is awful." I mean, I don't know. Chrissy W, I might need to learn more. Like, please call and let us know why you actually like this movie. Because
Yeah.
we clearly we haven't gotten to our rating yet, but we clearly weren't fans. So again, 347-508-0978. We want to
And if,
hear from you.
and if the remake is horrible, oh boy, that must be pure dog shit.
And then Yo Leo wrote, it's an absolute iconic film that is widely considered to be the star of slasher films, although the director said it's intended to be viewed as a psychological thriller. It's a Christmas tradition for me to pop this on. I hope you guys enjoyed this. The old ass teens. I guess teens did look old as fuck back then, though. Laughing emoji. I mean, that's a thing for forever. Like mostly because of I imagine like age restrictions on like certain content they can be a part of, and also like the hours that you can film and
Yeah.
stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, these niggas are old as fuck.
Yeah.
As college kids.
These college kids looked like they were 47 years old. Especially that the boyfriend Peter, that guy. What's his name? Kerr Dullian. Yeah, yeah. He looked rough. Rough. Wait, actually, when this movie came out, he was 48 years.
No, it wasn't.
He was 38 years old. He was 38 years old. He was born in 1936, Brandon.
Jesus.
No.
Oh,
Wait a second.
okay.
Go ahead.
So you know what? I like because I'm looking up. There's a few remakes of this, right?
Mhm.
So I saw the 2006 remake of this,
Okay.
which is still bad, and it's way weirder and shit. But it's got Michelle Trachtenberg, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and Lacey Sherbert. Like it's got like some cute white girls in it. But it's pretty bad still.
Okay.
But I think that one is a definitive killer though.
No, yeah. I mean, but I also think that the reason you're this movie was the way that it was is because they were kind of following the Alfred Hitchcock kind of formula
Mm.
to film. Well, I guess to a horror film.
Yeah.
And basically the unknown, you're afraid of the unknown, so you basically don't actually reveal the killer, or do the misdirect stuff like that. Which to his I guess to his defense, it did work depending on on what you're actually filming, but other aspects it doesn't, especially like what they did here. I don't think it worked at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not good. And then the 2019 remake, I haven't seen that one but it has Carrie Elves, Imogen Poots, Brittany O'Grady. I mean, it looks like a little bit more diverse of a cast. But it still doesn't look great.
Mm.
Like maybe the story just ain't it. How about that? Just let it die.
Yeah, done.
You know? Maybe just movies about sororities just don't work that well. I think about what was the sequel to Neighbors 2 about the sorority. That one for some reason just didn't work really well. It had some funny parts, but it didn't.
The porn.
Can you repeat that? 'Cause I don't think people
No,
heard
no,
it.
Uvia in the chat, unless it's a porn.
Yeah.
So did you know that? So certain towns and things like that. This it doesn't necessarily. What I'm about to say isn't necessarily true everywhere, but in certain towns, if you have more than a certain amount of women living in one house, it is considered a brothel, and it's not necessarily legal.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, yeah. I learned that when I was looking for a place in college, and like the realtor told us that. We were like, wait, what? Like this is fucking 2005. Like, what are you talking about? Nuts.
Life is crazy, man.
Mm-hmm.
Break down our rating system, baby.
Stop calling me baby. So, guys, you know how we do this. We rate movies bags of popcorn, small, medium, large, and the XL for the exceptional. If a film doesn't deserve any popcorn, we throw it into the dog shit pile. We pile piles and piles of dog shit on top of it. So, Brandon, we sat down and watched the 1974 film Black Christmas, aka Silent Night, Evil Night, aka stranger in the house. What say you, sir?
It's tough because I want to give it a small because of its influence on some of my favorite horror films, but I just can't do it. It's getting 1974 piles of dog shit. I really did not enjoy this. Like, and I can't force it because, like I said, there's parts where I can appreciate it as a cinephile, like certain shots and moments. But overall, I I wouldn't recommend anyone watch this unless they just have time to kill and they don't mind like doing laundry or something like that. And you could easily do a bunch of shit in the background and like still kind of keep up with what's going on here.
But Brandon, so how would you rate it if you were watching this as a producer?
Well, as a producer, I think I would give this a small because I think that, it's shot really well and it's like put together in a very impressive way that shows the cinematography at its finest. But I think as a producer, I would need to really market it in a way that's enticing. And I don't know how it was marketed, to be honest with you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, producer Brandon. So I'm gonna give this 98 piles of dog shit. Pile of dog shit for every minute of this shit that I had to watch. I found it incredibly boring. I didn't necessarily care about the characters
Yeah.
because there was nothing to really.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, there
Yeah,
was no one that you really liked.
yeah, because even with our main character played by Olivia Hussey, she like they didn't really give her enough. They just said, "Oh, she's pregnant." So it's like obviously we all want a pregnant woman to survive because we're like, "Hey, the baby." But outside of that, like I didn't care. They didn't build these characters up at all. And like, I mean, and this is from Olivia Hussey's character to John Saxton's, who's kind of like the hero of this, even
Yeah.
Margaret Kidder's. Like nobody was necessarily the standout to a person who was like, oh, I want them to live.
Yeah.
So it just kind of felt like a waste of my time.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, there you have it, folks. That's a review on Black Christmas 1974. As always, you can follow me at Frodo_Blackens, particularly on Threads and Instagram. That's where I'm at these days. You can also follow me at American Council on TikTok. I'm there as well. And then follow the show at Medium P Podcast on all social media platforms. Be sure to go to youtube.com/Medium P Podcast. Push that subscribe button so you get alerted about all future reviews and celebrity interviews that have coming up on that page. Interviewed recently Divine Joy Randolph from The Holdovers. Be on the lookout for that video. So take yourselves over there, subscribe, and all the viewership helps the show grow because Justin and I need that ad money. Please, please, please. Speaking of money, Justin, how else can people support the show financially as well as follow you, good sir?
Guys, you can follow me at JBrownDidIt on the socials, but you can support this show on Patreon, patreon.com/medium popcorn. We have $2, $5, $10, and $15 packages. And these packages, they're full and they're bold. So you can get our entire back. Our entire
Jesus
back.
Christ, Justin.
Our
They're
entire
full and they're
backlog.
bold.
Our entire backlog, bonus episodes, bonus, the mini episodes. So like there's a lot of content on
Yeah.
our Patreon. So if you're a fan of this show and you want more, Patreon is where it's at because there's hours, there's days of content
Yeah,
on
there's a
Patreon.
lot, man. I think it would
So
take quite a long time, even the $2 tier, to get through
mhm.
everything.
Yeah, because I mean we've been doing Patreon for like what, almost 6-7 years.
7 years, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a while. Yeah, we got to change that RSS fee. I think some niggas get it on for free.
Oh no.
We got to change it up. But thank you all so much for your support. Again, patreon.com/medium popcorn. Everything supports the show. Or you can go to mediumpopcorn.com. We have an Amazon wish list as well as a donate button. All that stuff helps out the show. Because 2023 has been a rough year. We appreciate your support.
Mhm.
But anything that you can provide some additional gumption for us to take on, we appreciate it. All right, y'all. We'll talk to you soon.
Peace.
Peace.